All right. Well, thank you for having me. having me. My name is Macrae Heppler. I do the video series called What's Happening in Southern Utah, and have been doing it for the last 8 years on film. I've been doing it for 10 years as a newsletter. So when I started it, I had started my business, Eagle Gate Title, in August of 2015. And I really wanted a way to just get to know the real estate community. And so I wanted to provide the real estate community with a source of information. And at the time, a lot of people were doing stats and different things to just kind of help real estate agents and mortgage lenders and builders and people to just stay connected. And at the time, that's when commercial development was really starting to come back to St. George post the 2008-2009 crash. And so dirt was moving everywhere. I grew up here. I'm a Dixie Eagle, Dixie Flyer, and grew up right here on the Black Ridge where my parents still live. And so it was like a kid in a candy store. Like, I love all the new stuff. And so I started just talking to people about that. And someone gave me the idea to start a newsletter. And I was like, oh, do people read newsletters now? I wasn't sure. But I was like, if I come up with an idea, I'll do a newsletter. And so luckily, I ended up deciding on just compiling all this dirt that was moving into a newsletter and just started putting it out to the real estate community. And 10 years later, it's turned into something that I never even expected it to, and it's been fun. It's been really fun. So I will not talk very much longer, so you can watch this video that shows just a compilation of the last 10 years and some of the areas that we've seen some of the most growth. So.
10 years ago, I sat down at my desk and wrote an email. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a simple rundown of what was being built in Southern Utah, sent to a handful of people in the real estate community. I had no idea that email would one day become this.
Okay, gauge is green, airspeed live. Green, airspeed live.
Traffic 12312, taking runway.
10 years of newsletters, 8 years of videos, hundreds of projects, and 4 areas that defined the decade. When I started doing this in 2016, Washington County had roughly 160,000 people. Today, we're roughly at 217,000, nearly 60,000 new people in Washington County. This work was never really about development data. It was always about people, a community changing fast and trying to stay connected to itself along the way. My family's been rooted here in St. George since 1963. I grew up here, went to school here, started a business here, and have watched this community grow over the course of my career. So when I started my company back in 2015, I already cared deeply about what was happening here in Southern Utah. But what drew my family here and what's drawn people here for generations isn't just the red rock or the sunshine, it's the people. Southern Utah has always been a welcoming place. That's not a modern quality. That goes back to the very beginning, to the pioneers who settled this valley in the 1800s, who came here with almost nothing and built something by taking care of each other. That spirit never left. You feel it today in how people show up for their neighbors, how communities rally around the new families moving in, how quickly a stranger becomes a regular. The growth has changed the skyline, but it hasn't changed that. To understand why 2016 felt like such a turning point, you have to go back to 2008. The crash hit Southern Utah hard. Development froze, commercial projects stalled, the momentum that had been building from the early 2000s came to a sudden stop, and for years the ground barely moved. The recovery was slow and uneven. It wasn't until around 2015 and 16 that commercial development really started to make a comeback. Permits picked back up, new businesses started making moves, developers who had been sitting on land started building again. There was a sense that Southern Utah had been holding its breath for nearly a decade and was finally starting to exhale. That's the moment I started the newsletter, not by coincidence. But there was no single place to track all the growth. So in January of 2016, I started a newsletter, gathering all the new development, the construction projects, the coming soon businesses, sending it to the real estate community as a resource. And in April of 2018, that newsletter became a video series. Same mission, but now you could see it. And Southern Utah is the place you really need to see. The audience grew slowly at first, and then 2020 arrived when steady growth turned into an exponential boom. When the world shut down, Southern Utah didn't. People were leaving big cities looking for space, open air, a different quality of life, and they found it here. Growth that had been building for years suddenly accelerated into something none of us had fully anticipated. I went from monthly videos to weekly, every week out in the field, talking to developers, city planners, business owners, and bringing it all back to the community. That's when this stopped being a marketing tool and became something I felt genuinely responsible for. People were making real decisions based on what I was putting out. That weight felt right. It felt like purpose. And it gave me a front row seat to something extraordinary. Over 10 years of coverage, 4 areas of Southern Utah stood out above the rest. Each area telling a different part of the same story. A community in the middle becoming something remarkable. Let me take you through them. If you want to understand the growth of Southern Utah in one drive, get on exit 2 and head east down the Southern Parkway. When I first started filming in this area in 2018, exit 2 was mostly open land. Desert Color had just started moving dirt, paparazzi hadn't broken ground yet, a handful of homes were going up near the airport. What I didn't fully understand then was that this wasn't just a development. It was the beginning of an entirely new phase of St. George. Desert Color exploded, hundreds of homes, then thousands. A resort-style community built around a massive lagoon and red rock views that drew buyers from across the country, becoming one of the fastest growing master plan communities in the state of Utah. And then the commercial followed the rooftops. Kenworth Sales Company and paparazzi started it. Then a few years passed and Big Shots, now rebranded to Crush It Golf, was the first entertainment venue in Desert Color. That was followed by the first restaurants and other retail that has really begun to move. Then, Smith's was the first grocery store along this corridor, anchoring the Sun River side of Exit 2. Following that, Intermountain Health committed to a 38-acre medical campus, and now Costco is opened, which will take everything in this area to another level entirely. Moving east along Exit 3, the new Career and Technical High School opened alongside a business complex that has already started filling up. Utah Tech University's southern campus will follow, anchoring the next generation of economic development in this region. Closer to the airport, the industrial corridor has seen significant growth, led by the ARA Southwest Logistics Center and the projects building around it. That kind of investment doesn't just create jobs. It signals that Southern Utah is being taken seriously as a regional economic force. And then there's the airport itself. St. George Regional has grown exponentially over the last 10 years into one of the fastest growing airports in the country. An expanded runway is done, our own air traffic control tower is under construction, terminal upgrades are underway with the full expansion as the top funding priority over the next couple years. The airport that served a small city is being built for the one that we're becoming. In 8 years, this corridor went from a mostly empty freeway exit to one of the most economically significant stretches in all of Washington County, and we documented every step of it. Every city has a heart. In St. George, that heart is downtown. In 2018, downtown was in the early stages of something exciting but still largely unproven. City View Apartments had just broken ground, the Avenir Marriott Hotel was on its way, Jewel Plaza was about to get started. All of those have brought more people to downtown to live and stay, and that is vital to the success of downtown local businesses. There was momentum, but mostly potential. What I've loved watching is how that potential cashed in. Older buildings that sat vacant for years got renovated and reimagined. New restaurants moved into spaces that had been empty for a decade. The food and beverage scene grew into something that could genuinely hold its own. Bonru Bakery, Pica Rica Barbecue, and Angelica's Mexican just to name a few. Washington County built their new headquarters downtown a few years back, and then the new St. George City Hall, a $45 million investment, was just completed on Main Street, right in the heart of downtown. The original was built in 1980 when St. George had 13,000 people. We're over 100,000 people just in St. George today. And there's more coming. A couple new developments are in the pipeline that will bring more visitors and residents downtown, not just to pass through, but to stay, shop, and dine. Downtown St. George is no longer a place you pass through, it's a place you go to. Washington Fields has always been a place of quiet contrast, open farmland and family roots sitting alongside one of the fastest growing residential corridors in the county. I started covering this area on the border of St. George and Washington in the very first newsletters back in 2016. Early stories included a new Lynn's anchoring retail around it, a Mountain America Credit Union branch, along with Simster Orthodontics and Johnson Pediatrics Dentistry. What was once largely agricultural land became one of the most in-demand zip codes in southern Utah. Revere Health built a 68,000 square foot multi-specialty medical center, along with Vista Healthcare next to it. Crimson High School opened as the newest school in the county. Washington County's second LDS temple was built. Intermountain Health added a new clinic, and more continues to come every year. And through it all, Washington Fields held on to something a lot of fast-growing communities lose, a genuine sense of neighborhood. Staley Family Farm is still running activities throughout the year, and they plan to keep doing it for years to come. But the next chapter is already being written. The Paseo project is bringing some of the biggest retail names in the country to southern Utah. Alea, recently rebranded from Stookie Farms, has plans for a massive surf park and more that will fundamentally change this area. And the new Washington Wills Park just opened, a community effort between the city, private donors, and residents that came together into something genuinely special. If Washington Fields is the story of a corridor growing up, Ivins is the story of a small town stepping onto a much bigger stage. For most of its history, Ivins has been a quiet bedroom community, tucked up against Snow Canyon State Park, known for its beauty and its pace of life. People moved there to get away from the noise, not to be at the center of it. But over the last decade, something changed. Ivins didn't just grow, it arrived. Tuacahn Amphitheater had already put Ivins on the cultural map, but what was coming next would put it on a national one. The story starts with a vision. Patrick Manning, the managing partner behind Black Desert Resort, had been watching southern Utah draw 5 to 6 million national park visitors a year with nowhere truly world-class to land. No destination resort, no place that said, stay here. This is the spot. He found his spot in Ivins, 600 acres of ancient lava fields and vermilion cliffs that most people had driven past their whole lives without imagining what they could become. Black Desert Resort was the answer. The golf course was designed by the legendary Tom Weiskopf, one of the great course architects of his generation, and his partner Phil Smith. Weiskopf passed away in August of 2022 before seeing the finished product. The course opened in May of 2023. The full resort followed in October of 2024. And that fall, Ivins, this small, quiet community that people moved to for the peace in the Red Rocks, hosted a PGA Tour event. I remember experiencing opening day of that tournament and thinking, we called this. Years ago, I was standing on a lava field with Patrick Manning trying to help people understand why this mattered. And now the world is watching. The PPA Pickleball Tournament just held its first Greater Zion Cup here last month as well, and more is on the way. Ivins didn't lose itself in the process. It's still one of the most beautiful, peaceful places in all of southern Utah. It just also happens to be on the world stage now. And that's the best version of this growth story. As much as I love history and looking back, I love looking forward even more. So where does this story go from here? The Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute projects Washington County will add another 63,000 residents over the next 10 years. And if the last decade taught us anything, it's that growth follows the land. And there's still a lot of that to the east. Hurricane has already been one of the fastest growing cities in the county, and that momentum is not slowing down. The Southern Fields area continues to build out. Sand Hollow, with its reservoir, its recreation, and the open corridors around it, is becoming an anchor for the next wave of residential and commercial development. Further east, Lavurican and Tokerville are starting to feel that same pressure. Communities that have been quiet for decades are beginning to attract the attention of developers, families, and businesses looking for space and value that's harder to find closer to St. George. And even further out, all the way to Hilldale, there's land, there's potential, and there's a community that is finding its own connection to the broader growth story of Washington County. 10 years from now, the map of southern Utah is going to look different again. The communities we're talking about today as up and coming will be the established ones, and there will be new names on the horizon we haven't even covered yet. And that's what makes this work worth showing up for every single week. I grew up loving history in Southern Utah, but never once thought I was making it. Southern Utah is still becoming what it's going to be, and I'll be here telling the story every week as it happens.
All right, so thank you. It was a pleasure putting that together. It was crazy. It actually got me a little, gosh. God, I've been crying too much lately. Got me a little emotional. I love my hometown. I really do. And being able to see what has transpired here has been, and to be a part of it has been truly special. So thank you for having me. My video guy's the one that put all the work into scraping all that of the last 10 years, and he did a fantastic job. And love the growth, and I love all the people that are doing it, because everyone has the same goal in mind of as this place continues to grow, because we know it needs to grow with how much demand there is. It's got to be done in a way that it remains St. George, Southern Utah, as we continue to do that. So thank you again for having me, and hope you all have a great day.